Hello, everybody. It's your starchy friend Oscar, and I thought today I would walk you through how I like to develop my digital pictures. I would like to warn you ahead of time that I'm probably not great. However, my good friend Angel has volunteered to let me use her face. So here's a picture I took at the Scarborough Fair Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme Renaissance Festival. I was messing around with it earlier. So the way that I like to do things is basically just go down this list. Like people smarter than me probably pay lots of attention to the histogram, and you can see some peaking. That's fine. Um, all the histogram is it tells you like where your levels are, what you got going on here. I'm really bad at explaining things. The easiest way is to just sort of do it. So we're gonna set our white balance here. Um, I've been told that whenever I develop pictures, it's very dark, so I just like to pump the exposure up just a smidge. Uh, I like to pull the highlights down, mainly just to keep this peaking to a minimum, which I guess is gonna be a hard sell today. You're very rarely gonna move any of these sliders too much, which is fine. You just want to be very subtle in your image manipulation. The difference here, these I just kind of set semi randomly. It's probably not great to do, but and the difference between vibrance and saturation is that saturation really focuses on like everything, and if you can see it, it makes like her skin all orangey, like she just rubbed Cheetos all over her face. Whereas vibrance is just kind of a more focused on like uh not the yellows and greens. I also like to just bring the saturation down about the same amount as I pull up the vibrance. And that doesn't seem like it's gonna work in this instance, so we'll just pull this up to about here. There we go. Next panel. This is just uh what you do here is you just kind of gently curve out. You want to make an S curve. And some people probably have more know how to do other things with this tab, but it is an inexpensive way to kind of make the colors pop a little more. Uh, it brings sort of a richness. Now here is the fun part. Um, you can change the colors ever so slightly. That's probably not a good example. We'll come down here to green. So we can make the greens very green, or we can make them very yellow, or we can leave them sort of in between. Uh, this is sort of where you get to flex your artistic license. So I just kind of like to wiggle the slider and see what's getting affected before I really commit too hard to any one thing. And then I just kind of eyeball it is what I do, which might not be the greatest thing in the world to do, but I mostly go on vibes. I'm a huge vibe based editor. Uh I feel like there are a lot of different types of strategy involved in color grading and adjusting all of these settings. This is how I usually make my subjects pop, is in this area right here. And now we get to mess with the saturation levels, which once again I should just pick a different color. If you so if you see here, it just sucks all of the life out of the greens. And that's kind of how we get a little pop going. The important thing is that you don't make like faces look ghoulish. Um, Everything else is pretty flexible. I very rarely mess with the luminance tab, mainly because I think it makes everything a little too intense. But we can crank it up just a smidge, just a smidge. You can see it adds a little bit of glow here, and maybe we'll do some to like the blue. Let's see what happens when we boost the luminance of green. Nope, that's too much. It's all about balance. You want to balance every element as best you can. Uh, the color grading is very important, and I'm not great at it. So, a lot of times I get this wrong, and I have to just kind of tweak it over and over again. For the most part, the easiest thing to do is to cool down your shadows and warm up your highlights. Pretty easy. You want to do it about the same distance from the center, um, and you want to have them roughly across from each other. But you can do warm shadows and cool highlights. And sometimes that looks nice. I actually think the warm shadows, cool highlights looks better on this picture. Um, so we'll go with that. Uh, I really don't mess with these sliders all that much. And I usually don't do much to the midtones because I don't know why. So this is a tab that can get kind of out of hand really quickly. So this lever slider pulls down the amount of places that the sharpening affects. And you really just want sharpening on like the if you want any sharpening at all, you want it around like the hardest edges in the photograph. So that's why you pull the masking. You hold Alt and then you click it and you can see what you're doing. And you just kind of want to pull it down, 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 down. It usually doesn't matter too much, as you can see. But you know, it's something. Noise reduction, I don't have to deal with so much because I used a very low ISO. Usually, when you crank your ISO up to oh, about my camera starts getting noticeably noisy at around like 1600 ISO, which is just how sensitive your camera is to light. Um, so up until then, you really don't need a lot of noise reduction. At least I don't. But it's good to keep that in mind. Lens correction. I wonder if we can notice that. There doesn't seem to be a lot of aberration, but the profile correction. So as you can see, that just sort of removes the warping that every lens does. As you can see, here's the lens that I took the picture with. Canon and many other lens manufacturers actually supply this information, I think, to uh, Lightroom. And there's a bunch of math involved that I don't understand, but I don't understand a lot of things. So it's fine. This tab I don't use super often. Um, but it's this is where you adjust these things. I think it's mostly for like architectural photography, where having like incredibly like rigidly straight lines is important. But for what I do, I very rarely use this tab. Effects is another tab I really don't use a lot. You can see you can add some film grain. Doesn't look super great on this one. Uh, it's got vignettes, but I have a secret. I have a vignette secret that I'm going to show you here soon. So it doesn't really come up. I don't really use this tab a lot. Uh, so calibration, if up here is very targeted for which colors it uh manipulates. This is a more global setting. It'll so if you move it this way, you'll ramp up the purple in the whole picture. And if you move it this way, you'll ramp up all the green. Um, this is already a very green picture, so I'm gonna boost the purples a smidge. And a thing that I like to do, as with all sliders, is to just kind of wiggle it and see what happens. The the blue primary slider is incredibly strong. Like I uh, I think I don't really mess with it like very often. I think I've done it once for like a very stylized picture. So now we get to do the fun parts, uh, which is creating a custom vignette to draw attention. So you're gonna want to make a radial mask and put it around your subject. Then you want to invert the mask and just kind of make sure that everything is lined up the way you want it. And then you're just gonna pull the exposure down just a smidge, just a hair. Uh, there we go. The important thing about vignettes is that if you notice it, you've gone too far. It should be extremely, extremely subtle, but it helps pull the eye towards the subject because the human eye is drawn to brightness. Sometimes I like to come in and just lower the saturation also a smidge, which, as far as I understand, is also a thing that helps pull attention to your subject. Not a whole lot. Like I said, you don't want people to notice it. And then you can come in here and sometimes, every once in a while, you can I like to brighten up the eyes. This is also something that can go like pretty hokey pretty fast. So gotta be careful. You can see here the reflections in her glasses. I really should have used a polarizing lens, but it was a busy place and sometimes you forget things. That's fine. Also, very important is to check for stuff you don't want. Um, I don't do a lot of like retouching or like skin blending. I like a very natural sort of look. So, most of what I edit out is just like little skin blemishes, um, fresh wounds, uh, pimples, that kind of thing. But I uh really like to highlight the way a person actually is. I like to I think that people are incredibly harsh on themselves and that uh I like to highlight just the natural way people look. You know what? I'm gonna add another radial gradient to her face, and we're just gonna kind of wanna very subtle, very subtly. We're just gonna bring her face a little more into focus. Uh, so now, I would call this a successfully edited photo. Um, and then if I have more photos in a series like this one, I say this one is almost exactly the same as this one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy these settings. I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna paste these settings. And Viole, it works. It always works. It doesn't always work. Uh, just want to remove some of this extra headroom above her. And then we just come back in here and we do the stuff that didn't get copied. I don't like to copy masks because masks are generally unique to the picture, uh, the needs of each picture individually. For this one, though, you can see more of her body. So we'll make the vignette across her whole body. And once again, very subtly, we basically just want to make sure that you can see her eyes. And wunderbar. Another successful photo edit. Now, if we come over here, we can see. So this is what it used to look like, and this is what it looks like now. I think it's a market improvement. And then we'll go to this one. It's important to take pride in your work, no matter what you do. I said earlier that I perhaps wasn't the greatest uh, photo editor, but I think that these turned out really well. So thanks for hanging out with me, and I will catch you later.